invocation and pledge by past Mayor and Commissioner, the Reverend Carl N. Flagg, Senior Pastor, Mount Tabor First Baptist Church, chaplain as well, Putnam County Sheriff's Office.
Let us reverence our hearts and acknowledge the sovereign authority of God. God, we humble our hearts this evening in the city chambers. We come to appreciate how well you took care of us. Lord, this storm covered our entire state and beyond. But Lord, we thank you because we were pre-covered by your love. We ask you, dear God, to continue to be with us, and especially with those who are still enduring the difficulties and the hardships that have come as a result of this Hurricane Irma. We thank you because from before Irma was conceived, you are God, and you have the power and the authority over all of the elements of our nation and world. The earth belongs to you and the fullness thereof. God, we especially thank and praise you that it is as well as it is. We acknowledge, dear God, the administrative, legislative, public safety, public works, dear God, and all of the departments that have united on the city, county, state, and federal level, entrepreneurs, public and private partnerships, dear God, and those, dear God, who have given tirelessly of their time and their talent to heal us, to fix us, to repair us, to put us back together, to restore us. And dear God, we thank you. Help the love and the fellowship and the sweet communion that have been established through this storm and beyond to remain within all of our communities. For dear God, we know that love is the super glue that causes any nation to be strong. Bless the commissioners tonight who will deliberate over issues that affect the lives of all of our citizens. Lead and guide and direct and sustain and keep them, dear God. Help their debate and dialogue to be healthy, but yet, dear God, consensus reaching and consensus building. Dear God, we just thank you as we also reflect upon the annual commemorative events that normally would take place throughout our nation in recognition and in remembrance of those heroes and heroines who have given of themselves over the years, and especially during the 9/11 crisis that our nation and world felt. Lord, we shall never forget the sacrifices, the ultimate sacrifices that were made. And we ask you to continue to salute those, dear God, who lay their lives down every single day. Give us peace of mind. Give us unspeakable joy and immeasurable love that we may do your will. Lord, we pray a special blessing upon the city as they go through the transition of a city manager who have proven himself and who will now transition over to Putnam County. Dear God, that let this city continue to move with vision. Let this county continue to move with vision. And dear God, don't let us miss a beat, but help us to march in harmony and unity that we may be a progressive community. We ask these blessings and all others in the matchless name of your Son, Jesus Christ. And we all say amen. Amen. There's a moment of silence that has been placed upon this agenda. And I think that while I'm still standing, if all of us would embrace the thoughts, although the 11th has come and gone, today is the 14th, but in retrospect, let us remember those victims of the most saddest terrorist event that we have experienced in this nation and world. A moment of silence. Amen. Let us salute our great nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Flagg. Roll call, please.
Mayor Fields.
Here.
Vice Mayor Brown. Present. Commissioner Borum.
Present.
Williams.
Here.
All members are present and accounted for, and you have a quorum.
Thank you. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from our July 31st meeting?
I haven't distributed any of those yet. We've been without power for several days, so.
Has everyone not had an opportunity to review any minutes? It's excused.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to public recognition and presentations. And we've got a couple presentations for today. So for many of you who are wondering, the commission is in work mode. We have been out in the trenches all over. We're not in our normal dress attire because we, like so many others in the community, are without power. And we're taking every minute that we have to make sure that we go out and continue to work in this community. And we will do so until power is restored and some semblance of normalcy is restored in this community. But we also wanted to have this meeting so that we can start to move forward and get back to the order of conducting some level of business within this community and giving people some outlets as well, so that we are moving forward. We have a proclamation for school attendance, and this proclamation, I think Ms. Brown is here. We have the representatives from the school district here.
She said that she pushed it back to the school. Push back. She said she tried to contact, but I wasn't on for that.
Okay. Well, we'll just make a note of it. This was, I presented this at the school district meeting on last week prior to the storm, and it's for the Attend and Achieve Month for the school district, and we'll present that to her during our September 28th meeting. Constitution Week, September 17th through 23rd. Members of the William Bartram chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Would you please join me at this time? This proclamation reads as follows. Whereas in May of 1787, delegates gathered in the Pennsylvania State House to chart a new course for our emerging country, meeting in a time of economic hardship and passionate debate, but with the understanding that while controversy is in the hallmark of democracy, the forces of tension and uncertainty pale in comparison to the strength of our common ideals. And whereas in the document that has endured for more than 225 centuries, the framers put forth the vision for a more perfect union and called its Constitution the United States of America. And whereas our Constitution was signed on September 17, 1787, and after an extended period of national conversation, and with the promise of the Bill of Rights, it became the supreme law of the land. Since that time, America's Constitution has inspired nations to demand control of their own destinies and has called multitudes to seek freedom and prosperity on our shores. And whereas we celebrate the world's longest surviving written charter of government, let us remember that upholding our founding principles requires us to challenge modern injustices while accepting our responsibilities as citizens, our obligations to one another and future generations, allowing us to move forward knowing that in the face of impossible odds, those who love their country can change it. And whereas Constitution Week is designated by joint resolution of Congress as September 7th through 23rd of each year, was initiated by the Daughters of the American Revolution in 1955 and signed into law in 1956 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower, becoming public law number 915 of the United States of America. Now therefore, I, Terrell Hill, Mayor of the City of Palatka, Florida, together with the members of the Palatka City Commission, do hereby recognize and proclaim September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week in the City of Palatka, and we encourage local government officials and leaders of civic, social, and educational organizations to conduct ceremonies and programs that bring together community members to reflect on the importance of active citizenship, to recognize the enduring strength of our Constitution, and reaffirming our commitments to the rights and obligations of the citizenship in this great nation. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause to be affixed the seal of the city of Palatka, Florida, on this 14th day of September in the year of our Lord 2017. Terrell Hill, Mayor, Commissioner Mary Lawson Brown, Justin Campbell, Rufus Borum, and Tammy McCaskill Williams. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
The motion on the floor is a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We want to present this proclamation. Mr. Carr, I got the new name for you. You're a husband of the DA.
I am a hard that's I have to be.
Moving on to our next proclamation is for the Bartram Frolics Week, September 25th through October 1st. The Bartram Committee, Mr. Carr. Is there anyone else with you?
Robbie? Yeah.
Can you all come forward?
Diane?
Oh, yeah, we're
Okay. All right.
This proclamation reads as follows. Whereas in 1765 and again in 1774, John and William Bartram visited the area that would become to be known as Palatka and Putnam County. And afterwards, William published a book detailing the adventures, which immediately became popular in Europe because it captures people's fascinations with exotic flora and fauna of the St. Johns River and the colony of Florida. And whereas in 1998, the St. Johns River was designated as an American Heritage River by President William J. Clinton, and in 2012, the Bartram Trail Committee of Putnam County was formed, which began the development of a water hiking and bike trail commemorating many of the sites that John and William Bartram previously visited. And whereas in honor of the 250th anniversary of John and William Bartram's exploration of the St. Johns River, the first Bartram Trail Conference was held in the fall of 2015, which attracted over 150 attendees. And whereas the National Park Service designated the Bartram Trail as a National Recreation Trail in 2016. And whereas from September 29 to October 30, 2017, the first annual St. Johns River Bartram Frolic Festival weekend will occur in our historic downtown Palatka, hosted by Putnam Blueways and Trails Bartram Frolic Committee, where we will celebrate the 243rd anniversary of William Bartram's 1774 travels through Palatka. Now, therefore, I, Terrell Hill, Mayor of the City of Palatka, Florida, together with the members of the Palatka City Commission, do hereby proclaim the week of September 25th through October 1st as 2017 Bartram Frolic on the Riverfront Week in the City of Palatka, and we urge all citizens to attend this event and take part in the celebration of Putnam County's heritage and relive and relove our river's heritage and history. And witness whereof, I've hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Palatka, Florida, on this 14th day of September 2017. Terrell Hill Mayor, Mary Lawson Brown, Rufus Borum, Justin Campbell, and Tammy McCaskill Williams, Commissioners. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
It's a motion to approve by Commissioner Brown.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Borum. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We want to present this to one of the hardest working groups.
What a shocker.
Thank you so much, Mayor and Commissioners. This is, reading this proclamation is the life that we have lived for several years now, and it's coming to fruition with the frolic. When you think about this, what we have created for Palatka and all is a wonderful opportunity to bring people here and to enjoy our history and our heritage. This March and Frolic that we're going to have this weekend is in 2 weeks is going to be an educational and recreational event. We're going to be bringing almost 1,000 kids to the riverfront to teach them about the St. Johns River and William Bartram and so forth. And we hope to entertain another 2,000 folks with boat rides and all this that together. So this is really wonderful. And this, as William Bartram stated, it was a wonderful trip on the beautiful San Juan, as he called it back then. And so we want this to be the same. And we thank y'all for y'all's support. And all, it's really amazing to see how the community has come together to make this frolic such an ordeal. We have over 60 displays that will be down here. Every single civic club in the county of Putnam is participating in this thing. That is unbelievable. It's never happened before. And it's really it's captured the imagination of the community, and we're proud of it. And we want to thank y'all for y'all's part in being partners in this thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
We definitely thank you for making the festival more than just a local festival. It has international appeal, and I've had an opportunity to take part in it and witness folks come from all over the world just to be a part of this. And we definitely thank you for the effort, for the work, and the continued work in getting Palatka and Putnam County Grove and African for sure. So, item D, employee recognition, departing of City Manager Terry Suggs. I think we're going to rename this. It's not a departing. It's he's transitioning to another place. And so, interestingly enough, I asked Terry about 2 weeks ago to quit. And he's like, "No, you got to fire me." And I said, "Well, it's not going to happen." But in all fairness, over 2 years ago, in July, we were blessed to have a young man come in here from Keystone of all places. We soon learned that Terry had worked on every job in the world, that he met people from all different neighborhoods, and there wasn't too much that he hadn't already done. And Julie kind of lent it to us for a little bit. And from that, we got somebody who had jumped into this community, and he became a major part of this community. Head first, he became a resident. He was a homeowner. He was involved. And he's still going to continue to be that way. I've had an opportunity to watch him truly fight for Palatka and to get out and really jump in the water head first, almost literally during the hurricane, where most people would have water wading to their knees. In one of our situations with a rescue mission that was done at one of the local nursing homes, it was up to Terry's chest. And so, but we're gonna miss Mr. Suggs, but we're glad that he's moving on to the county commission because it's something that goes further towards us unifying Putnam, for us actually building this community together, the cohesiveness and the love that Pastor Flagg talked about. And that's going to be the way that Palatka prospers. The way that we respond during crisis is the way that we have to respond daily in this community, because all forces come together. There is no territorialness. It's all about Palatka and Putnam and about people. And I think once we take on the basic concept of loving the neighbor, loving thy neighbor, this community is going to grow. And Terry's presence at the county is going to be a very instrumental part in the continued growth. And so, Mr. Suggs, my long speech comes with a plaque. If you can come forward, and if Julie, if you would join him at this time. If you stand on that step, you'll be tall. And this is presented to Terry K. Suggs, City Manager, Palatka, Florida, June 11, 2015 to September 22nd, 2017. Secretary, General Employees Pension Board, ex officio member, Palatka Gas Authority Board, June 11, 2015 to September 22nd, 2017. With sincere appreciation for your 2 years of dedicated public service and leadership, to the citizens, officials, and staff of the City of Palatka City Commission, September 14, 2017.
Julie, get over here.
Okay.
Yeah, but, Carl Black deemed me the city mama, and my daughter deemed me the city grandma since they're so young. So I'm both of them, but we know how much you give up all the time to have Terry be with us and act, and we want you to remember us. Now, my grandmother taught me something. I want to tell you this too, Terry, because I'm not saying nothing else after this to you all. That pack on your office. And every time something comes before you that has to do with us, kind of look at it. And then you tell your fellow bosses that they need to look at it too, because we're better together. And Julia, we hope that this will remind you of happy days that you had with us, and we had happy days with you. And every time you look at it, say, we're better together, and we love you.
We are better, and we love you.
So that's Chief.
On behalf of all of my fellow employees and the city of Palatka, from the Palatka Police Department, we look at our employees as family members. All family members do well. We hate to see them go, but we love to see them grow. We want you to know that you'll always be a family member of the city of Palatka and the Palatka Police Department. We say thank you, and you'll always be around. Thank you, Chief.
I hear you. Too late.
Oh, man. Well, let's just say this, that 2 years ago, I think the final comment I made during the interview process was that, if fortunate enough to be selected to be the city manager of Palatka, that I hope that the body of work that we put together will give you reason to be proud of what we've done together. And I think I can state here today confidently, say, I believe that's a fact, that we've done that. Coming into a very stressful situation, and it was stressful, but having the ability to serve with 5 elected officials that understood the needs of the community and have the ability and the foresight to make the tough decisions that need to be made to get us in a position where we could be successful is extremely important. That accompanied with the ability of inheriting an outstanding staff. As you can see now, we've got a fire department well represented. Our police department is here. We've got public works here. We've got administrative staff here. And it's that environment and that team concept that has allowed us to do the things that we've done for 2 years to put Palatka in a much better position than it was 2 years ago. And the model of leaving it better than what you found it is certainly part of it. But I think it's a testament not only to the elected officials and those of us who serve the community, but the community and the citizens themselves who have allowed us to do the things we've done and be a part of that decision making and to be a part of the process that we're going through. And I couldn't have found a better location to be able to do that than right here in Palatka. We're very fortunate to come in contact with folks in our career that have meant something to us and have been an inspiration, if not anything more than a good friend. And I'm going to tell you that I've developed a lot of special friendships here. That's my staff knows. We go out to dinner together. We go to lunch together. We do a lot of stuff together outside the office because that's what family does, and that's the environment that we want to preach here tonight is family. And Chief Shaw, thank you for doing that. But there's one other individual that I haven't mentioned here tonight as far as a staff member, and that is Don Holmes. Mr. Holmes has been a great friend, mentor, and a coach to me for 2 years. A lot of decisions that were made in this office was a discussion between Mr. Holmes and I. So nothing that got done on my watch wasn't without the assistance and the open, honest dialogue that needed to be had between the city manager and the city attorney. And folks, I would just implore you that whoever you choose to fill this role next, don't let that change, because you've got to have that. And you are fortunate to have the staff that you have and have Mr. Holmes as your legal guardian. And I am so proud as I can be of this city and what we've done, and I'm so proud of my staff. And I am just so proud as I can be tonight, be an opportunity to maybe assist the city at the next level. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for the support, and thank you for this very much. Thank you.
I want to say thank you. It was a very hard pill for me to swallow, and it took me a while to accept the decision. I respect the decision, and I know that what you have put in me will always remain. It's kind of like one of those things with like a big brother. Any question that I had, you answered it. You made sure I had understanding. You were never unavailable for me. And I think our last trip together kind of brought me to the point of being able to finally accept that we're losing somebody great. I made the motion to bring you on. I wish I could make a motion not to let you leave. But I know that the relationship that we have formed here is going to transition with you over to the county, and you know the needs of the city. And you know that we have been trying to bridge that gap, and I know you're going to be that person that assists with bridging that gap. And to Ms. Julie, thank you. Thank you for lending him to us. I know he came in at a time where we all were literally baptized by fire, and through the process you were there, and that means a lot to see you as his wife in the picture, not just in the background, but in the forefront of everything. So we're losing two great, I don't want to say we're losing two great people, but due to this transition, I know that, just know that you all will be missed. Know that we still have to go to Beef O'Brady sometime. And again, thank you so much for making yourself available for me. And I hope that you still have your phone and answer it for me when I call, because I'm quite sure I'm going to have questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Coming on here, it was tough for us spending those many months without a city manager. Bringing you on board was an easy decision for me based on the number of candidates that I think we had over 60 some candidates or what have you. But going through those interviews and the way you answered the questions, I know you was concerned that your interview was so short, but you were very poised. You had the knowledge and experience that you needed in order to be able to help us make the easy decision to bring you on. And your work has certainly proven bringing you on was a big payoff for the city. Your policy experience, team building, you did a great job with team building. Previous city manager never gave certain people opportunities or whatever. And what you've done with every department, you reached down, not only just at the top level, but you have gone down to the rank and file. So we certainly appreciate all you have done. The relationship with the city commission. You don't find too many council members and city managers that work well together. And we have truly become a family. And you're going to break a lot of our hearts, but you're going to be real. You're an ally. You're going to be right there with the county. You're going to continue to work a nice working relationship. Again, we're going to miss you. And we thank you, Julie, for lending him to us for the period of time that you did. And we're going to certainly miss you. Thank you.
I'd like to say something. First, I'll say that Terry listed me as one of his references on his application with the county commission. And when the search committee called, and then when some of the commissioners who I know and have known over the years called and asked what I thought, there was a second where I thought, if he doesn't get that job, he'll stay where he is. But which would have been a good thing for the city, but like has already been said, it's an opportunity for Terry that no one could not wish him the chance to succeed at. But one of the great pleasures in life, I think, that you can experience as long as you live is to meet new people, enjoy new friendships, and enjoy the opportunity to learn from new people, because everybody has something to offer. Everybody has some more than others. I truly enjoy the opportunity of getting to know Terry and Julie, both on a professional and a personal basis. I think that they brought a huge positive factor to the city of Palatka. Terry's background, for those of you who don't know, is very, he's a many-faceted person, as is Julie. And I think all of his experiences, from everything from being a correctional officer to working in codes offices, I think it's brought him a perspective on dealing with people that gives him a unique opportunity to really bring a lot of different people from different mixes together and make it work. So I can honestly say that the city's loss is the county's gain, and I've absolutely enjoyed both working with and getting to know both of you.
Certainly have enjoyed it as well. My last comment will be that just so my city commissioners now will know, and I can also let my board of county commissioners know, there won't be a decision that will be made that I won't weigh how it's going to affect both entities. Because as I said throughout this process when they were in the search, was how Putnam goes is how Palatka goes, and how Palatka goes is how Putnam goes. We have to work as one. There's a lot of things that we can do together. There's a lot of things we need to be doing together. This hurricane was a prime example of when we needed resources from both entities to get waist deep in water, so to speak, in the storm. Knee deep for some, waist deep for others. I get it. Palatka Healthcare was if you don't mind, Mayor, I'll tell the story. Palatka Healthcare was in critical mode. We had patients that we were having moved from one side of Palatka Healthcare to the other side for the simple fact it was about 4 inches higher in elevation. You don't think when you're talking about 4 inches, you're like, well, really, does that make a difference? It made all the difference. When we got there, we had the Putnam County Fire Department, or volunteer fire department was there. The city's fire department was there. Public Works was there. Stacy Manning, the interim county manager, myself was out there, and we were doing all we could to keep the water from intruding any further than what it was already intruding into Palatka Healthcare. When I was wading to the building from the parking lot, it was waist deep on me at the time. And after looking at blueprints and figuring out elevations, getting the forestry department to bring a bulldozer out there, finding a couple places where we could make some very significant cuts to move some water. It took us about 5 hours to get everything done, but once we made that cut, we dropped about 1.5 feet of water, I believe, in about 15 minutes. And that made all the difference. We were trying to figure out what plan B was going to be by moving all those patients at a very critical point in the storm where vehicles weren't allowed on the road because of the dangerous winds and rain, to being able to do the things that we were able to do together as a team, both city and county, to save that facility and be able to provide the service that those patients needed at the time. That's the type of teamwork that we're talking about that we're going to have moving forward. It really is. And Commission, I promise you this, I'll give it my best shot to make sure that doesn't get forgotten. But again, thank you all for everything. Thank my wife for the opportunity to support me. You're right, she is half this team. Without her, I am half the man. So thank you very much, and thank you all.
So, city and county. I'm sure there's one in the back of the room who's got a few words of wisdom from Mr. Suggs as he transitions.
Let him on speed dial,
Okay, that's it. So I definitely, it's one of those situations that I think it's a wonderful thing for a city manager to be able to leave on positive terms with a standing ovation. And Terry has been a friend. Terry has been someone that I've worked closely with daily in the trenches. And sometimes I call and Julie ends up answering the phone. And she's been a sweetheart as it relates to really just coming into this community just like Terry and just really becoming involved. And we definitely appreciate you for both your support and your work in this community. But Terry, they say give you your flowers while you yet live. And it's not very often that we can say thank you and in 2 years make the impression that you've made. We're not going to miss you because you're easy to get to. And you still live in the city of Palatka, and you're definitely just a phone call away. And it's a transition, and I think it's an opportunity to fortify a marriage between the city and the county. And we're excited about what's about to happen overall in this community. That one Putnam and one Palatka under God concept is becoming a reality. Palaka's working together, Putnam County's working together. And it's not just going to be during crisis. It's going to be on a daily basis. And this community is going to grow. And we're going to become that what's happening community because together we are better, Ms. Brown. And that's where we are. And so, Terry, we'll belabor the point just because we're excited. And but job well done. And we appreciate you. We love you. And we are excited about your growth and about the opportunities that are ahead for everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I was like Don, too. I didn't want to give a good report when they called me for a reference either. Just for a second. Now we'll move into public comment. Ms. Kreider.
Invitations.
Ma'am.
Yes. Bring your apron.
We open it now, we have to wait for Christmas.
Linda Kreider, 116 Kirkland Street, Palatka, Florida. And I just, as part of the Bartram Frolic ceremonies that are going to happen at the end of the week, I gave the commissioners an invitation that says a Bartram Day on the St. John's. It was a picture taken of the Bartram Puggy Craft at sunrise when the Bartram Conference was here several years ago. I took that picture at sunrise. And I just thought it really shows our river, which is now nationally famous. A historian friend of mine said, when people hear the name St. John's River, they're not going to remember that it was flooded. They're just going to remember something about the St. John's River. And so I think we have a real positive opportunity. On the back is an invitation to come to the grand opening of the Bartram Inn, which is at 116 Kirkland Street, my home. So it's Thursday, September 28th from 4 to 6. It's open to the public. And there'll be a tour of the house and live music on the porch. And that weekend, members of the National Bartram Conference will be the first to be hosted at the Bartram Inn. So this is an invitation for all of you to come and drop in and see the Bartram Inn. Pass that around too. That just shows a picture of the house. I want to just say again, thank you for all your support. It was a labor of love and a long time coming, but I think we're about ready. Today I got the state official approval and the city building inspector, fire marshal have been out to give the approval, and I think we're ready to go. So I'm looking forward to lots of people coming and staying and enjoying Palatka and giving them gift certificates for places to eat, things to do, and kayaking on the river and riding bicycles around. So please do come and enjoy the grand opening.
And thank you. Thank you for your vision as well. Let's give Linda Crowder a round of applause. She does so many things in this community, and I don't think she really gets the recognition for her commitment and dedication to Palatka. And we appreciate you and all your efforts. Moving on, item 3 of the agenda is the consent agenda. Item A, adopt resolution number 2017-12-89, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest FDOT supplemental joint participation agreement number 43805119418 for rehabilitation of T-Hanger taxi lane pavement project at Palatka K-Lark King Field. B, adopt resolution 2017-12-90, authorizing mayor and city clerk to execute and attest FDOT joint participation grant 433-118-19418 for runway 17 through 35 and TWC3 lightning threshold rehabilitation project at Palatka Municipal Airport. C, adopt resolution 2017-12-91, certifying the Palatka Housing Authority's Historic Central Academy renovation project phase 1 roof replacement is consistent with local plans and regulations, including the adopted comprehensive plan of the city of Palatka. Are there any items that we wish to have removed?
Motion to approve all items.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 4, public hearing. Trim calendar fiscal year 2017-18, proposed budget and millage rate for 2017-18 budget year, 6.4 mills proposed. Our truth and millage statement. Our truth and millage statement for fiscal year 2017-18, prior to the adoption of the resolution, which set the property tax millage rate, chapter 200.065, paren 4D. Florida statute requires that the following statement be publicly announced. The taxing authority levying this property tax is the city commission of the city of Palatka. The rollback rate is 5.6349 mills per $1,000 of assessed value. The percentage decrease is 13.58% higher than the rollback millage rate. The operating millage rate is to be levied is 6.4 mills per $1,000 of assessed value. Discussion. Item 8.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Palatka, Putnam County, Florida, adopting the proposed and tentative operating millage rate for the purpose of levying ad valorem taxes for the City of Palatka, Putnam County, for fiscal year 2017-2018.
So move.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor, second by Commissioner Campbell. We'll now open the floor for public hearing. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing. Is there any additional discussion? Questions, call. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item B, resolution adopting proposed fiscal year 2017-2018 budget. Mr. Reynolds.
Matt Reynolds, Finance Director. Just wanted to go over a couple of changes that I've made to the budget since the last time we discussed it. Our FMIT citywide insurance renewal rates came back in, and it increased by about $39,000. The largest impact was to the general fund of about $30,000. We met with Florida Power and Light in August, and if some of the commissioners may remember, several years ago, the city adopted it was either a resolution or ordinance, I believe it was an ordinance, to change our code to clean up the utility service tax that we had in the code. We found out that per Attorney General opinions that the way that we had a tier rate set up was not correct, and so we went to a flat rate. However, Florida Power and Light had not put in place that flat rate. They informed us that beginning in September they would, and that would be about $5,000 per month additional revenue. So I've added that in. to the general fund. Changed the city manager's position since Mr. Suggs will be leaving. I reduced it from 52 weeks of pay to 40 weeks of pay, so that had an impact on the general fund. We added back in a fire marshal position into the budget per the city code. Looking at the city code, it was apparent that there is a fire chief as well as a fire marshal position, so we had made that adjustment. Also adjusted the fuel taxes to reflect the state estimates, so that helped revenue as well. I did make one large change in the utility fund. We added the beneficial reclaimed water project that the city got a cost share from the St. Johns River Water Management District on. Our share is estimated of about $175,000 on that almost $1.3 million project. When I added that in, that of course affects the administrative expense reimbursement to the general fund, and that causes it to go up some. Overall, all of these changes have resulted in the general fund being positive of about $64,000, which is good news. And however, the utility fund, with the addition of the $175,000 share, that has caused the utility fund to have to run a deficit next year, and we'll be using some money out of reserves. However, the reserve should be about 11.29% at the end of next year. However, there are several large projects that are going on in the utility fund: wastewater treatment plant, beneficial reclaimed water project, a lot of other capital projects that are needed in the utility fund, the historic district potable line project. So there are a lot of good things happening in the utility fund. So overall, that was all of the changes that I had.
Any questions? Any comments? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds.
You're welcome, sir.
Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
There's a motion on the floor and a second. We're now open the floor for public hearing. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing. Is there any further discussion? Questions called. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5, public hearing resolution, USDA Community Facilities Grant application for purchases of a street sweeper, authorizing application, execution, and submittal of revised grant agreement documents to obtain a USDA Rural Development Community Facilities Grant for 48% of the cost to purchase a dump truck and skid steer loader or equivalent, and accepting grant funds in the amount of $100,000.
A resolution of the City of Palatka, Florida, authorizing an application for a United States Department of Agriculture Community Facilities Grant to fund 42% of the purchase cost of a street sweeper, and authorizing execution and submittal of all necessary documents in connection therewith, including USDA Form RD 1942-47, loan resolution, public bodies to accept a grant in an amount not to exceed $100,000.
So moved.
Second. It's 52, right?
I think it's
48.
42%. It's 42%.
Our share is 52. What do you have with the number?
42%.
48.
It's 48% of the grant.
Correct.
That's correct, at 48.
48.
I believe so.
It's 42 in the document.
It's 48 on our paper here, though.
It's, 50, their share is 58 hours is 42. Their share is 58 hours is 42. It's 100,000 to 200 and, what's in here?
That's not correct.
42%.
42.55.
Yeah, 42%.
58 is our share.
Yeah, 58 is our share, 40% is 42. Yeah,
48.
so
Caption is on the,
if you look at the documents,
The
they
agenda's
call it 58 to 42. Yeah,
it's
so
correct.
the agenda's wrong.
The agenda's wrong.
Yeah.
Some of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I said motion to approve.
Second.
Motion on the floor in a second. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, will close public hearing.
Question.
Questions called. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Tucker. Moving on to item 6, public hearing, 26 parcels at Concord Road and Crystal Cove Road for proposed RV park. Planning board recommendation to amend future land use map for residential, from residential medium to recreation, and to rezone the property from R3 multifamily residential to ROS recreation and open space. Riverwatch LLC applicant. Item A, future land use amendment ordinance. Before we get started, Mr. Crowe.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, just briefly, I think this has been a little bit of a controversial, I guess we can say, item, and it's important just to go over a few quick things. It's been 7 months in play since last February. We had a neighborhood meeting between the applicant and the neighbors of the Crystal Cove subdivision about the proposed RV park. You may recall that this 11 acres was already approved for residential development, a 20-something unit subdivision, and 40 additional units of, I believe, duplex multifamily units. Over those 7 months, there has been a lot of communication, a lot of testimony, a lot of back and forth and give and take. Hasn't been easy. It's been a little painful at times, but there have been a number of improvements. The intent expressed at the outset was to have an upscale RV park that would complement the adjacent neighborhood and the resort as well. Since that time, I believe we have achieved some agreement on wider landscape buffers, a check-in station, and RV parking within the park. And these are things that came out as public hearings and discussion. I think they're all positive moves. Shifting the check-in office and RV temporary parking from the eastern part of the property to the west, which would reduce the traffic impacts on Crystal Cove Road. Shifting the boat trailer parking to the north end of the property, since that activity is less frequent and will impact the neighbors less. It hasn't been easy. The planning board voted this on a split vote, 5-2 vote, and I think that the majority of the planning board felt that this was an area that was rather intensive in nature because of the resort. There was a minority in the planning board that strongly felt at the same time that protection was needed for the existing residential area to prevent it from becoming kind of an isolated island. The Commission did ask staff, Mr. Holmes and I, to meet with the applicants between the time it was tabled at the past meeting. We did hold a meeting with the applicants on August 23rd. At that time, we did receive still a conceptual drainage plan, but essentially a more fine-tuned drainage plan that essentially showed the movement of stormwater from the site from the northwest to the southeast. I can't speak to it. I am not a licensed civil engineer, so I can't speak. Actually, in the state of Florida, the civil engineer seals the plans, gets behind the plans, stand behind the plans, and it's really their responsibility to make sure the drainage works on this. However, I would add that over time, the applicant has increased the open space to 71%. So essentially, 71% of the site will be woods, grass, area that takes rainwater in. Therefore, they will need less in the way of stormwater facilities. Also wanted to mention a point. It's an important point because we have two items here. One is the future land use amendment adoption, and the other is a rezoning ordinance. And Mr. Holmes can speak to this in more detail if you want, but essentially the rules you're governed by are what's called legislative for the comprehensive plan amendment and quasi-judicial for the rezoning. Quasi-judicial is more defined. If they meet the criteria, essentially, you have a harder time denying it. And again, they have come a long way to work with the city and to work with the neighbors. However, that being said, the legislative component of this is the comprehensive plan map amendment, what we call the future land use map amendment. You as a commission only need to make, you don't have a high standard here. You can decide if you believe this is, despite all the bells and whistles, it is an incompatible development to the neighbors. You can essentially vote the future land use amendment down as a legislative action. You're not compelled to approve it. there's not a higher standard associated with that decision. If the future land use amendment is voted down, then obviously the PUD rezoning goes away. So really, the only reason I'm saying this, I don't want you to feel like you're bound to go one way or the other. The applicants have come a long way to address concerns. Times it's been like pulling teeth from my perspective, but they have, I think, made a good faith effort to meet some of the issues that need to be met. And I think from Mr. Holmes' perspective, I don't want to speak for him, but from my perspective, I feel like you can't approve this. I think that we have enough safeguards in place to ensure that if they meet their rules, this will be an upscale RV park. I did want to quickly address the issues. We talked about the drainage. They did provide a more specific drainage plan, which is in your packet. We also, at the time, we wanted them to brick the whole thing. Essentially, all the internal driveways, everything should be brick, like Renegades was. What they offered as an alternative was what's called stamping, concrete stamping. You've probably seen that. Essentially, it's difficult to tell the difference sometimes between stamped concrete and brick. You get a nice pattern, a distinctive pattern. It has that upscale feel, slows traffic down, looks good. So staff is, I guess at this point in time, at the 71% open space preservation, which includes 2.5 acres of tree preservation and park area, more green space for individual RV sites, pavement surface upgrades, the wide buffers we've talked about. The other concern that came up, and I think that was settled, was the potential problem with RVs stacking back to Comfort Road. What they've agreed to in PUD is the gates will stay open all day so that stacking would not occur. They wouldn't be essentially the RVs could come into the site without having to potentially stack and affect traffic on Comfort Road. So, I'm sorry I wasn't going to brief, but I did want to bring some of these points up. You have the conditions of approval, including the more recent conditions of approval from Mr. Holmes and I at the meeting. The applicants are here, the neighbors are here. I know that there was some discussion about tabling the item because of the storm. I'll leave that up to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. I'm entertaining a motion to approve.
Second.
We're going to get to it for discussion. So motion on the floor in a second. We'll now open the floor for public hearing. Got several cards for public hearing. Tingle. You got 1.5 minutes and your wife has the other nine.
I will yield that to her, so.
No, you got 3 minutes. Everyone has 3 minutes.
Scott Tingle, 232 Crystal Cove Drive. Thank you for your time. I'll be brief. I just wanted to highlight a concept I shared with the zoning commission previously about sunk cost and investments. Is that if you make a bad pick in the stock market, it's not the government's responsibility to bail you out. And we've made maybe a bad pick in a piece of investment property, and we're asking for government regulations to be changed to save this investment. And that's what you hear about in the nightly news, this capital cronyism. So we're not about picking winners and losers, and I just ask you to think about that as you're making your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Tingle.
Good evening. My name is Caroline Tingle, and I reside at 232 Crystal Cove Drive. I, too, oppose the rezoning of this application. I do not challenge this rezoning by merely being upset. I challenge this application for 2 valid reasons. First, the rezoning would deviate from a comprehensive plan that has established the designated use of this property as residential. 22 families have collectively invested millions into our neighborhood and into this community. Is it not your role to implement and monitor this plan? I realize a comprehensive plan is not permanent, but for a community that is not fast-growing in comparison to our neighbors, I tell you that an RV park is not a catapult to economic growth in our community. Secondly, this RV park is not compatible with the Crystal Cove neighborhood. The application that was presented that I previewed last week has not produced plans. These are conceptual. They do not demonstrate that this is an upscale development and will be matched appropriately to our neighborhood. This project has continued to be labeled upscale and be comparable to Renegade's property in Willaca. Bottom line, this project should stand alone, and it is not compatible at this time to the Renegade's property that is clearly being referenced throughout this 7-month timeline. I end with this. I bet on this development at the expense of the residents of Palatka is not in your best interest. Thank you.
All right, before I take any further comments, you have a presentation for us today? You want to show us a presentation? And if either of the prior two speakers need additional time for comment, we'll take those. I just want to make sure we've got all the information out front first.
Okay. Paul Salafrio, 6305 Northwest 79 Terrace, Gainesville. So, as Thad said, we met, we talked, and I think it was a productive meeting. I think we had a meeting of the minds. I hope it wasn't like pulling teeth, because I didn't intend it to be that way. But anyway, we can go to the next slide. Just to remind everybody what the original density was, and Thad's already kind of gone through this. This is what we originally started with. Now, actually, before this was all zoned differently than what you see here. So before we actually purchased the property, there was zoning on it, multifamily zoning on it. So it changed from the original permitted density to our first 64 residential units. Then, as you recall, we brought a 50-unit RV park in front of the plan board, and from comments that was received from them, it went from 50 to 40. So where we are now is 40 units. The biggest issue I think we had last time was the concept of buffering. And so to deal with the buffering issue, we've done two things. One is we flipped, as you recall, we flipped the parking for the boats to the north side on the south side. And we've now buffered the entire east side of the property. So as Thad said, there's now 71% of the property isn't even being used. It's going to be in trees, it's going to be maintained as open space. So from the standpoint of where we sit, that's a huge difference from where we started from, to be honest. One other thing, we took, you can go back to that slide, we took off the long-term rope storage. Yeah, so I've covered all that, that's good. Next one. So again, in the PUD zoning series that we've been in, we revised this plan 3 times. And we revised it based upon your comments, your plan board comments, the comments that I received from the property owners. This is the process that you go through. The specificity that you see here is warranted because the neighbors required it. And we agreed. We agreed that we should give you some more detail, which is what we did. So this was revision number 1. Recall we have the boat parking on the south side. The entrances, as you can see, are lined up with the marina. So that's where we started. Where we ended up was, now you see the boat parking on the north side, and now you see all of that green area on the east side of the development, which now stays as the landscape buffer. No development whatsoever. The other things we provided were gates so that we could stack RV units. One of the concerns was that the units would stack back on the highway, on Comfort Road. We took care of that by putting the gates in. That's something that Thad brought up, that the city wanted, and we said no problem. So I think every step along the way we tried to meet the concerns. Were there some things that I wasn't comfortable with? Yes, there were a few things that we went back and forth on, but that's just the nature of the process. We talked about traffic impact. I'm not going to go into the traffic stuff unless you guys want me to. It's a long, Stuart Cohen is here, my engineer, and if there are traffic concerns, questions still at this point, I would like to have Stuart come up and address those. But just saving that slide for now, I'll hold back on the traffic impact. So with that, I've got this exhibit in front of me. It shows, there's, 12, 14 conditions here. All of these conditions we've agreed to. So that's all I can say. I mean, everything that the city asked us to do, I believe we've done. Now, if the issue is compatibility and there just doesn't need to be an RV park here, that's a separate issue. But as far as design criteria of what that has brought up, I believe we've answered every question. And we've provided stormwater plans, we've provided master site plans, we've provided all of the detail. Now, of course, we still have to go back to the Water Management District and get another permit for stormwater. And there'll be a whole nother round, as that is aware, of going through all of these permits with the district and with the city. So we're not at the end, we're at the beginning of a much longer process that has to take about another 6 to 8 months.
What's your position as it relates to the pavers?
We're going to do the pavers on the aprons as we agreed to, both sides coming in. And then on the interior portion of the development, we're going to do the stamped concrete, which I think is a good compromise between having pavers on the entire site. So one thing that the city was concerned about was having blacktop and just the heat that's generated by blacktop. And I agreed. I said, it's probably a better idea to have stamped concrete. So that was, again, that was a middle ground we came to.
Can I ask a question? You'd have stamped concrete then on the sites themselves as well?
No, I think on the sites themselves, we've agreed to use pavers.
That's what my understanding was also. My understanding was that you'd agreed to use pavers on each site, which you said each site was going to be large enough to accommodate a 53-foot RV and a trailer of some sort. Those would be pavers as well as the aprons that you'd mentioned, and then the interior roads you proposed to stamped concrete, as I recall.
That's correct.
Any other questions? Thank you. Mr. Crowe.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, real quick, one thing I forgot. Mr. Taylor brought to my attention that the applicant had also agreed to a fence along the east side, essentially along Crystal Cove Road. The applicant agreed to it, everyone agrees on it, so I think if there is a motion, that should be added into the motion.
Fence or wall?
Yes. We have a wall on the north side already.
I did.
Is there any recommendation on the type of fencing?
I think we can work it out unless the commission has some specificity. I mean, wooden pickets can deteriorate pretty quickly. Suggestions?
What were you looking at for your fencing?
I haven't really thought much about it. So. So just as a quick point of clarification for the record, we did agree to fencing. The fencing and the wall are two separate items. The wall is on the north side of the RV park, which separates us from the neighbors. The fence along the east side, I thought about matching a fence where there's columns and then boards. So you have concrete columns or stone columns and then two boards, two corral type boards between them. But I'm open to a more intrusive fence like a stock, if that's what's required.
Is it a privacy fence or is it?
Let me try to explain it. I think that the buffer is going to have what we call 85% opacity, meaning that you're really not going to see much within. I think the purpose of the fence, from the residents' perspective, and we'll speak for them, was to keep people from kind of freely going back and forth and kind of corralling them within the property, which, we're fine with. That's the RV part. The wood is a concern. The wood tends to deteriorate. I mean, we've already got a visual buffer established through the trees and the vegetation. It might be better to have a more attractive fence, like a decorative aluminum type black fence instead of. I have no problem with the columns. That would look nice, but the wood materials tend to deteriorate over time. Decorative aluminum, I think, would probably be preferable.
Yeah, I think you could go with aluminum or you could go with a Trex product where it's a composite, which I'm also open if a black chain link fence, 6 foot high is what we want. I mean, I don't think that's very attractive in my opinion, but it does keep people from wandering into the, anyway.
You want to revisit your public comment? You got some time.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, Caroline Tingle, 232 Crystal Cove Drive. Again, my previous remarks indicated that the revised plans, again, do not indicate what we keep referring to as an upscale development. I do not understand why this property is being termed Renegade's Life, when it clearly is not. I mean, a casual joke about a black chain link fence, but that's just really not where we need to be at this point. I, again, want to just beg of you, when you're considering this application, that you really look at the compatibility and what this community, 22 families, have invested in this city, and what an RV park might do to deteriorate that market value. Thank you.
Mr. Taylor.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Bob Taylor, 241 Crystal Cove Drive. We're really not ready to have this meeting. I had appealed to the mayor and to the city manager by email and by phone, left a message to have the commission table this request. Crystal Cove subdivision experienced the same storm damage like virtually everyone else in the community. Down trees, water damage, flooding, power outages, and some have even evacuated. We have some of our neighbors here today, but we really didn't have much notice. As of today, I came by the city hall and noticed that the doors were locked. And Ms. Driggers not told me yesterday afternoon that the meeting was going to take place. I'm sure the handful of neighbors that we have here tonight wouldn't even have made it. Up until yesterday, we didn't know for certain. Previously, our neighbors have been assembled en masse to convey concerns and objection to a potential development which could cause numerous negative impacts to our neighborhood. Reverend Flagg mentioned positive spirit and camaraderie as the community as we collectively responded to the hurricane damage. Our neighbors also bonded and responded collectively for the benefit of all. Many of them could not be here this evening again to express their concerns due to late notice. Up until last week, I was in communication with Mr. Crow, who provided the latest updates and plans and narratives, and it's not what you saw tonight. The plan keeps changing. Yeah, I think it's unfair for us not to have the current information even to discuss at a meeting. This is our last resort. You, ladies and gentlemen, have the authority to change the comprehensive land use plan, to change the future land use map, and that's what we're appealing that you do not do. Mrs. Tingle conveyed to you the magnitude at which our neighbors bought into this community, built into this community, and give to this community. We're all community leaders and workers and helpers that have something invested in this community other than just our homes. But our homes are very important to us. It is important and relevant planning elements of this proposed PUD be stated in drawings and narrative to ensure what might, if actually gets passed, gets enforced. As I said, this plan is different than what I got from Mr. Crow's office last week. It showed parking in the green space. There's no wall on the east side, which on 6th of July, Mr. Salafrio responded to Mr. Bachman's comment. The wall should have gone all the way down to Crystal Cove Road along the east property line of the parcel to keep their people inside their area. And Mr. Salafrio said as far as extending the wall, he had no problem with that. And tonight, he wasn't certain as to the content of the wall. It was supposed to match the wall that's already out there. I'm concerned that we're going to get something that is not compatible with our neighborhood. The plan will keep changing, and we won't even have a chance to convey our unhappiness or feelings about it. This is no less than the third time since 2006 rezoning and changes to the comprehensive land use plan have been requested and sometimes approved. Increased traffic, poor percolations, high water table, non-compatibility, neighborhood integrity have all been issues our neighbors and I have appealed to the planning board and to you in hopes that you would listen and vote no on changing the comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan, the City of Palatka says, the State Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 187, Florida statutes, includes as a requirement that governments consider private property rights when developing land use and land use regulations. You need to consider those again, ladies and gentlemen. These are our private properties, and we're very concerned about this potential development. Please vote no on the comprehensive land use change.
I think until we get,
If you don't list a time certain, you don't have to re-advertise. If you do list a time certain, you won't have to re-advertise.
so can we move, you want to aim for, I can aim for time certain is 28 or the first meeting of October. I would like to make a motion that this item be tabled to our first meeting in the month of October.
Second. We'll revisit the motion in the second. Questions called again, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 6 has been tabled until first meeting in October. What's the date, Madam Clerk?
Let me look at the calendar, sir. Just make sure it's the right one. Your second Thursday will be October 12th.
October 12th is the date certain. See you back here on October 12th. Moving on to item 7 on the agenda. Ordinance amending Chapter 38, flood regulations to comply with most concurrent FEMA-approved building companion flood plan management program. First reading.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Palatka, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 38, floods, to make modifications to bring the regulations into agreement with the most current FEMA-approved Code Companion Floodplain Management Ordinance for Florida communities, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
So move.
Second.
Motion on the floor, second. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, will close public hearing. Is there any further discussion? Questions called, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item 8, ordinance amending Chapter 66, Chapter 88, and Appendix A, fee schedule code of ordinances, solid waste, utilities, rates, and fees is set forth in fee schedule first reading.
An ordinance of the City of Palatka, Florida, amending Chapter 66, Chapter 86, and Appendix A, fee schedule of the municipal code of the City of Palatka as it pertains to solid waste, utilities, and fees, and other charges relating to solid waste and utilities, providing for severability and providing an effective date of October 1, 2017.
So move.
Can I ask a question? How much will a person's bill become October 1st? The water bill and sewer?
Is that like 11 point something increase in the bill or something?
No, 6.5.
Listen.
Sorry, I had Mr. Reynolds working on a separate item. So we'll be right with you.
Mr. Finance Director, I'm sorry, Ms. Mary, Commissioner Brown, what was the question again?
I asked, how much it was, the water bill go up for our citizens?
I ran a sample, say, a residential bill inside the city limits at 4,000 gallons a month, which seems to be the average bill. It's currently $70.37, and that's for water, sewer, and garbage. And it would be going to $74.73, which is $4.36 increase.
And what about our businesses, the average business?
I did not run the math on that, but it should be roughly the same percentage rate because it was a flat increase based on that. So it's a little bit higher than 5%.
Okay. Why I'm asking is, some people on Social Security, we don't know where they're gonna be. It's the reminder for everybody.
We still don't know where we're gonna get the resources to deal with the $18 million infrastructure project.
Because they don't got it, we can't do it.
Public hearings, is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing, item number 6.8.
I was in the dark in so many ways, Mayor, I didn't have electricity.
You still got your judicial watch stamp on there though?
Yeah, that was an old one I had, luckily. Quick question to Mr. Reynolds, the $74.73, that's going to be the increase, but when the water and sewer increases, then the utility tax on it also increases, and it usually adds about $5 to it. Was that included? Okay, thank you very much.
Everything, all inclusive.
I had a question about the, under, excuse me, on page 1, section 1, section 66.4, under special pickups, dogs, other animals, placing waste on parkways. And the new wording has to do with bulk waste items, special collection of bulk waste. I'm specifically concerned about the tree debris. It seems that this paragraph only refers to, like, if you hire a contractor to remove your tree debris, and I understand if you have a contractor to do the construction of tree debris, part of your cost is him or her taking that to the landfill. My concern was that there was no distinction between a contractor putting debris on the yard trash or debris on the right-of-way and me putting it on the right-of-way. But I read the next paragraph down, paragraph 2, and the last sentence says, in the residential district, garden and lawn trash shall be collected and placed on the parkways and the streets in front of the places of residence in order to facilitate the collection by the city. So my question is, specifically, I have debris from the hurricane that my neighbor's son has put out on the parkway. Am I going to be fined for that, or I'm a residential neighborhood? This applies to every residential neighborhood in Palatka. Is the city going to continue to pick up the lawn trash, or am I falling under that other paragraph, which if the contractor doesn't remove it, then I've got to remove it and or be fined? It's probably a question for Mr. Holmes. It's a legal issue.
That's actually a question for Mr. Griffin.
Okay, then the question specifically is, this paragraph 1 of this thing only pertain to contractors, and can regular citizens continue to put yard trash and some small boards on the city right-of-way to be picked up?
Jonathan Griffin, Public Works Director. We're not proposing to change our current standard operation, allowing residents to put yard debris by the roadside, and it would be covered under the normal collection.
Thank you very much. That's put my mind at ease. I called my yard little boy and I told him, I said, don't come to work today. I've got to go to the commission, and if they say no, then tomorrow you come and put all the debris back in my yard. So thank you so much. You relieved my mind. Appreciate it.
And just for clarification for everybody, we are doing everything we can to make sure that we accommodate our citizens. If you have any questions as it relates to dealing specifically with your yard debris, you can call There's a diagram that we placed on Putnam Alert that gives information about how to deal with the storm issues that are out there. As well, you can go to putnamalert.com, or you can also go to the city's webpage. We have a link that sends you right there. And so it kind of covers everything you need. If not, dial 329-0107 when we come back online, and you can be accommodated through Public Works. Thank you. One item that I need to address as an emergency item on this agenda, just because it's time sensitive. And that item, and that pertains to interim pay of both our fire chief and interim city manager. We didn't discuss that during the appointments during the last meeting. We won't deal with that. It's something that was omitted from the agenda as of my fault.
Finish that item later on.
Yeah, okay. So, glad somebody kept me on track. Yeah. So, is there anyone else here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing. Any further discussion from the commission? Seeing none, questions called, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Appreciate that. Now, I need to address that item as an emergency item before we get into item 9 of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this point.
Make a motion to accept the emergency item.
There's a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, as you know, we have made a few changes in the last couple, 3 weeks as far as staffing and things of that nature. We've had with the retirement of Chief Lambert, our fire chief of 30-plus years. We have J.R. Grimes, who has been the interim chief now since the 1st of August. And it's time for us to discuss the salary for Mr. Grimes. We've looked at the salary rankings throughout the city for appointed officials. Mr. Grimes, I believe Chief Grimes was at the captain's rate of pay for a long period of time, even during the interim for assistant chief. And now that we have named Chief Grimes the interim chief for the fire department, I think it's time we address the salary for that position. And it's the city manager's recommendation based on the salary structure of our other appointed officials within the city of Palatka that Mr. Grimes fall within the recommended allowance of those appointments. And then the salary, if you want me to read that, Mayor? The salary is, we've budgeted in our current budget year to begin October 1 at $76,624, which puts Chief Grimes in line with all the other elected officials or appointed officials. So that is the recommendation of your city manager. It is budgeted. We do have the funds in the budget for that position. Remember, we did have an assistant chief position as well, / fire marshal. That position has been vacant for quite some time. So thank you, yes. And so we're going to be addressing some organizational changes as well, I believe. But it is the city manager's recommendation that we, at the interim for the fire chief, we set the salary at $76,624.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion on the floor and second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Second part of the emergency item is the incentive pay for Mr. Reynolds taking on the additional duties as interim city manager. It is my recommendation to kind of keep his salary in accordance with the position with additional duties that we take an additional $1,000 per month. to kind of put him in place to where he needs to be. Currently, he's at 84,000. The additional $1,000 per month would put him underneath the pay of what we've had with Mr. Suggs. And in the same situation, we're not filling the finance director position at this time, so there will still be some budget savings based upon his salary. The same, we have budget savings based upon the salary of the finance director not being in play prior to any selection process.
I just have a question with regards to that. I'm in agreement with it, and I'll make the motion to approve. But I just want to make sure that there won't be, as far as a problem with serving as the city manager and still being able to maintain the duties as the financial director.
We don't anticipate there being any problems.
And who would step in? I mean, because he's serving in two capacities, so he's kind of over himself. And that's just a question. I think it's a very fair question.
For a number of years, the past city manager, Alan Bush, as an example, there are a lot of city managers throughout the state who operate as both finance director and city manager. Mr. Bush was one of those folks who had the finance background initially and went into city management for a number of years, just as a clear example of what it is. And so we anticipate during the search process. Similarly, when Mr. Bush stepped down, we can readjust those roles. Under the hierarchy based upon charter per se in Mr. Riddle's absence, then Mr. Riddle would step into that role as the city manager. If there's any absence upon that, we will readdress the issue at that point. Yes, sir.
It's like that also make it work. I mean, I know he'll be pretty much, almost at the rev number for maxing out again. I mean, he's spread as it is right now. We probably need to accelerate the pursuit of filling that particular role. And if it's going to be a long, drawn-out process, then we're also going to be pulling Ms. Driggers into the fold, and we would need to look at compensating her accordingly as well. But based on what
I just wanted to add that within the finance department, it's typically always been finance director and several clerks underneath the finance director. My plan is one of my clerks recently left for another job opportunity. I'm going to modify that position to be more of an accounting supervisor position so that there is an actual hierarchy within the finance department. And I'm going to be looking for somebody over the next few weeks that has a solid financial background that can help step in and do some of those financial duties. So
fully address what I was
that's the relief.
However, he is also acting as IT.
That RFP
the RFP responses are already in. With the storm, I just couldn't get it on this meeting. I had planned to get it on this meeting, but at the next meeting, my plan is to bring recommendations forward on IT firms that can provide the managed services for all the servers, and we'll also look at maybe doing end-user support. So that'll be coming up.
And just for the knowledge of the commission as it relates to IT, we've also spoken to the school district during storm while we're under a state of emergency, and they've agreed to assist us as much as they can to kind of deal with some of those issues because we know that people have been pulled from multiple places. And so I think Mr. Reynolds is in a pretty strong position to be able to handle what we've got. Again, because we work from a team, from a team response. We all pitch in where we can. We kind of work it from the commission to Mr. Holmes to Mr. Griffith to all of our department heads. And Mr. Suggs is still a phone call away until the 25th. Yes, sir.
Just for more conversation, we've been very fortunate here at the city of Palatka to have staff in place for a long time. Mr. Grimes has been, I believe, in the fire department for 14 years. Mr. Reynolds has been here for going on 8 years. Mr. Griffiths has been here for about 7 years. You know, so we've
Well,
got.
don't forget Betsy. Betsy been here a longer time than that too. She's
I
been
understand
here.
that, but we're talking about new faces and new places. And so my point being is that we have developed a very energetic, youthful type of team here that have been here for quite some time and are very capable in the roles that they play and the roles that they serve the citizens of this commission. And I think they're very capable of doing the services that we're asking them to do. I'll use Chief Jason Shaw as an example of someone who had been here 17 years in a position of going from patrolman to chief of detectives, who has stepped in as our police chief for nearly 2 years now. And I would hold Chief Shaw in what he's done up against any police chief in the state of Florida, right here in the city of Palatka. And I think that the culture that we have developed here, the teamwork that we developed here, and the ability that these folks understand how to work together on a team concept will make each of them successful in their own right. And I appreciate the opportunity for these young folks to be able, and I keep saying that, I'm sorry, I'm 52 years old, but for these individuals to have an opportunity within the organization that they currently serve to promote to leadership positions. I think it's well deserved, and I think it's an opportunity for them to show the commission that they can do the job that they're asked to do. And that's my comments.
Mayor, just what's the title of the position that you're speaking of, the accounting position? What's the title?
Instead of calling it accounting clerk, I've already drafted a job description for an accounting supervisor, so that they will be basically second in command in the finance department, so that there's an actual hierarchy in the department.
One of the things that you're going to see, I think one of the things that you're going to see is a growing trend within the city's hierarchy, for lack of any other term, on the org chart, is creating succession plans within departments so that you can identify the second in command, have them trained to step in the absence. Because one of the biggest thing that's happened around here, there hasn't been an assistant city manager based upon what positions have been identified. You didn't have a clear HR department. In many departments, you only had foreman positions that were in place. There wasn't a succession plan. So, for example, you look at Ms. Triggers, she doesn't have, by true identity, an assistant city clerk. And so if you find yourself in a situation where your central personnel is now sick or out, or something happens or whatever, or they're at a conference or whatever it may be, you don't have the succession plan in place to continue on with business as usual. And so we're trying to build that model up and increase those positions to put us to where we need to be. What we've had over the last few years in particular is people who have actually gone over and beyond their particular job description to make sure that certain job duties were in place. And we're just trying to clear that up.
I'd like to make the motion that we accept the recommendation of our mayor to compensate the interim city manager, Mr. Matt Reynolds, the additional $1,000 per month until the vacancy is full.
Second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Do you accept it, Matt?
Thank you.
So you don't want to kill him though.
We're going to give them all the support necessary to keep this thing going. That's the good part of working with the team concept. The core of this team is sitting in this room right now, and everybody has an essential role to play. And so we all understand that we're all going to pitch in. And, he's not the only person that needs some relief. We've had conversations with Mr. Hughes about making sure she gets relief as well in this coming year.
And Jonathan.
And so, no, Jonathan's young.
He got to learn anyway.
I think what you said is very important, and I think we meet all the time to meet, but I think this is something that we really should get together and listen to the vision that you have overall, because I think it's something that will be very much beneficial to the city as a whole, and I think it'll, like you said, it'll put us in a position to be able to operate when someone is not available. And I think we have a prime example of how you and Mr. Suggs stepped in when we had an issue with there was a cemetery issue, and you all definitely stepped in. And I think it's those kind of things that we prevent by putting or implementing what you have suggested into play. And I think that'll, it'll set us up for the better. So I definitely would like to sit down and have a more extensive conversation as to the vision that you have for that.
And I'll tell you, we won't take all the credit for it, because a lot of times what we're finding out is, and it's really coming from the department heads overall, because I think that the biggest issue has been their voice hasn't been heard. The decisions have been made from the front of the room, and the people who are in the trenches have not necessarily had their voice heard on a lot of things that are going on. And so, as it relates to, reorganization of the police department, or even the finance or the clerk's office, when we start to talk to people who work those jobs daily, and then we actually get out, because one thing that this commission does is we get out to the different departments, and you kind of see certain things, but once you listen to folks who are doing that job daily, and you take back that information and try to fit that into the budget, which is probably one of the most difficult things, it starts to work. And I can tell you, for example, our city attorney probably has functioned as an assistant city manager for the last 3 years. And a lot of things are different than what his job description is. But he steps in to help out as an essential personnel person just because of his love for the city. And, he provides the legal advice, but he also provides institutional knowledge in the same way that Ms. Triggers and some of the other folks do. And that institutional knowledge is critical to where we are, but also new vision, new perspective, how we morph public works into a whole different way from where it's been before. For example, the call that Terry makes to change Mandy Tucker's assignment from just doing cultural resources and dealing with the River Center to actually get involved in grant processes. All those things have been beneficial. And again, I think the input from the commission along with staff puts us on that next level. And it's going in and inventory. One of the things that Ms. Robinson did, inventorying the assets of skills that we have in place. Taking the Sean Lads and seeing that he can do more than just be, just be a foreman, but he can actually be a department head who can make things happen. And once we see those skill sets, that's what's got us to the point that you look at our streets right now and they're clean, or because you found people with great skills and great leadership opportunities who will build the community and work. And we've identified it because there's been an asset check, and that's what we've been doing. And so it's a team process. This is a part of the team. We kind of developed a playbook, but I can tell you the plays come from on the ground. And sometimes you draw them up in the dirt and they work, and that's just what we're doing. And I think if we continue on with the core team, having Terry over in the county is just a benefit to us, but that core process is still there, and that's what we've got. And so, it's time for us to continue on another visioning session and do those things. I agree. But I think we're going to be fine. It's kind of, we're just changing the quarterback. He's a little taller this time.
Much taller. I got him in weight, though.
I didn't say that. So, I think that's where we are. We're going to move on to, if you guys have any more comments, first of all, I think this is critical for us to have this conversation. Any additional comments or thoughts from the commission?
I just think it's spot on in terms of, looking at the hierarchy of business continuity. That's where we need to be, and I think we're heading in the right direction.
So, moving on with our Hurricane Irma update, I think we've already kind of got those updates in place. You guys have anything else that you want to add to the updates other than we don't have lights?
I think this is about the only block in town that doesn't have lights yet.
In the last, as it relates to the hurricane update, I will tell you 60% of the county does not have lights. We've had significant flooding in the city of Palatka, all over the county, but very, very serious flooding in the Barton area, out US 17, in the Crescent City area, and Interlochen Lake Estates area. Our fire department actually went out door to door in Interlochen out of Interlochen Lake Estates, and they found several people who hadn't eaten for 5 days, hadn't had lights, needed medical attention, and those folks were just happy to have someone to knock on their door who actually cared. And Chief Grimes, I just want to definitely thank you and your guys for the work that you did. We have.
Mayor, I'd like to thank Betsy for helping us get all this agenda stuff together. That Wi-Fi wasn't always working. And
It wasn't working.
We got, each one of us has our agenda packets here tonight. And that's working with a generator and a helper. And,
working in a flooded area.
yeah, and a hot area. And in part of the time, she's been in this building either by herself or with one or two other people. So I think that we need to make sure we remember those who stand.
We didn't forget her, you just didn't let me get to her.
We wasn't moving fast enough. Oh! That's why I hear her.
I'm heavy, I can't move fast anymore.
Yeah,
It's
you
over.
can. A little help from your friends.
I got a weight problem.
Listen,
I can't move anymore. I was 187 when I played. It sucks. But we are, but very critical roles played throughout this entire process. Everybody has played an essential role. There's nothing greater than seeing Mr. Crow come out of his shorts to work. But it's been all over. We can name one by one, but everybody from the city, I think, from a preparedness standpoint, we got a model in place that works for us, and it works for the county as a whole. Our preparedness allows us to be able to go out and assist other people and to meet the essential needs of our community. Even in those critical situations, we didn't panic, we made it happen. And, and those were most of those were all-nighters. And there are a lot of things behind the scenes that people wouldn't really have a clue of. Really proud of the commission for showing up and being present during those meetings, volunteering at different centers, at different shelters. That makes a difference when people see you out working and in the trenches and sending that communication out when we don't have internet, to make sure that all the information is going out. And it's just teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work, and that's what we've done. That's what we're going to continue to do here, and because it's a family atmosphere. And that's where we are as far as the hurricane. We are looking for our lights to come back up. The police department, are you still at modified, Chief?
We will be reducing back to regular staff as of tomorrow. We have the lights on the corridor for business corridor for Lee Street as well as Highway 20. We've already done our survey and everything is up and running for those areas.
Are you still in modified?
We're back to regular staff.
You went back today?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Actually, yesterday.
Mr. Griffin?
We still have our electrician on call. That's the only person that's on call.
We are payroll. We've been working it. So our people have worked a lot of hours, and we're ready to find the new normal. That's kind of where we are at this point. We will continue to have our normal meetings at EOC continue because we're not out of the woods. We're just out of the wind. And the thing we got to make sure of is there are critical needs to be met within the city. We still have a lot of citizens without power. There are critical needs to be met within the county. For example, our Bread of Life, they're out of food. All their food was lost as a result of the hurricane. They didn't have generator power. So we will be soliciting donations from anyone who wants to help out with them. The sheriff's office will actually be feeding tomorrow at 11 o'clock at the Bread of Life. Yes.
Do you have something that you can share on social media?
There's actually something out there already. If they go to Putnam Alert, they'll see it.
Okay.
But we can put something out. Our social media communications person, Commissioner Campbell, will take care of that. And so we'll have that out, and we'll do what we can for sure. And so Matt Reynolds has been drafting flyers, for example. He and Betsy have been putting those flyers out and whatever notices we need out throughout the storm, and that's going to help us out as well. And so that's where we've been. That covers us as pretty much as far as the updates for the hurricane are concerned. We have a resolution for continuing the declaration of the 2017-01 state of emergency. Not state of emergency. Our 7-day suspension on collection of building permit fees for construction repairs related to Hurricane Irma.
Did I get that right? On the 7 days on the building permit fees?
Let's increase it. Last time we did a 30-day extension.
Okay.
As long as it was storm related, and let's do it again at 30 days, so that our citizens don't incur any additional costs as it relates.
You need a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Second.
You want me to read the caption?
Yes.
A resolution of the City of Palatka, Florida, continuing that certain declaration of a state of local emergency dated Wednesday, September 6, 2017, 3 o'clock p.m. for an additional 7 days, suspending collection of building permit fees for a period of 7 days and providing an effective date.
So moved.
You said 7 or 30?
It's 7 on the resolution. You guys can make a motion to amend it to 30 and then make a motion to adopt.
I'd like to make a motion to amend it to 30 days.
Storm related.
Storm-related
Fee.
fees and repairs.
Motion on the floor in a second. Questions called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Any comments from the commission? Department heads, anything else? Seeing none. Commissioner Boyle.
Defer.
Commissioner McCaskill.
Not much, just want, I wasn't out in the forefront during the storm or anything, but I do appreciate all the information that was shared by the Emergency Operations Center, and I was able to share it on Facebook. I appreciate everything that Commissioner Campbell and all the commissioners shared, and Mayor, you as well.
We saw your post. We saw you working.
Yeah, so I kind of stayed behind with that, and I definitely want to thank Chief Grimes. He helped and open the line of communication with us, and that kept me in the know and kind of made me feel good. So I really, really appreciate that, and everybody else in their, respective places who did things as well.
Vice Mayor.
I don't have anything to you, but thanks to our whole crew for all the work they've done and sticking together, because we are one.
And we appreciate you for checking on everybody. I saw you going around the neighborhood visiting citizens and making sure that their needs were met. And we definitely appreciate you being out there on the ground as a foot soldier.
If you can't walk so fast, you can ride. So you can still let me drive.
The scary part is you were driving in the storm. Commissioner Campbell.
I just want to say thank you as well. It's at times like these when you can really see the sense of community that we have here in Palatka. This storm didn't know race, it didn't know anything, but at the end of the day, it showed how we in Palatka can unify to make sure that the rebuilding efforts are expedited. Major kudos to Matt and Mr. Suggs and Mayor Hill for their continued just dedication. Jonathan as well. He had the little white truck all over town. But it really did my heart some good. I actually stayed and worked over at Brown and Pierce at the shelter. Stayed 3 days. But just being able to serve the people that entrusted us, and we did not flee or we did not evacuate, to make sure that our city saw that we was at the forefront of the individuals that was trying to make sure that we get back to some kind of normalcy. So kudos to everyone, just kudos to everyone, and yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it.
I think I had the chief in there, chief of police, about his going through the city, I guess broadcasting about food, available food for people, food and water for the people who were stranded or didn't have availability to food. And they partner with the sheriff department, and they covered the city and the other cities and municipalities. So kudos to those guys. I think everybody else has been given credit or whatever for all they've done, and we certainly appreciate everybody for pulling together during these times of need.
Sure.
I just want to let everybody know that I'm not sure if my emails get delivered to everyone or not. Northeast Florida League of Cities has decided as a board to cancel next week's dinner meeting in Palatka. Also, the ethics training has been canceled. They're going to try to reschedule that. We're not sure that we actually have an opportunity to reschedule the dinner meeting because our next Thursday is the Thursday following next Thursday is the adoption of our budget, and then we're into October, which is too close to the next meeting. And the December meeting has been set for another location for a long time.
You let them know that.
No,
They're
it's you.
disappointed.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Tentatively, if we're out of the woods as it relates to storm recovery, let's use that same time to do an appreciation for our staff.
Good
Since
idea.
we've already got the facility.
Good idea.
Let's use that and invite staff and family in.
Wow.
Many were away from their family during the storm. So let's do that. I want to make sure I personally recognize the police department. They covered, I spent the majority of my time at the PD. Well, actually,
I got your back, Terry. I got your back.
Thank you, sir. They had good food that day.
I know. That's why you were there.
But they ate all my snacks. So, from my survival bag. But I can tell you, those guys went out on a number of calls of service all over this community, and they worked logistically one of the strongest plans I've seen. And I really want to give a shout out to Chief on that, and the work that they did throughout that entire process, and just the way that our departments are working together. So we appreciate it. I had an opportunity to go on a mission to the Flora Home area in West Putnam, through about 3 feet of water on the bridge in Barton, and it was amazing just to see how Rice Creek was flooding and what was going on out in that area. But it's been a hard journey. We're still not out of the water again, and we're going to continue forward. You got the last words today.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor. I tell you, it's during times like this when you understand and realize, how important having friends and good folks around you is. I want to start though for the work thing though. We've had, with the office being closed, we've utilized our staff. The ladies up front, Susan and Vicki and Chrissy, they went and got certified, trained, and they're following our debris management truck. So we're utilizing those staff in a very important role that we're having. Thad stepped in at the EOC yesterday. I believe he drove our insurance folks around today. Again, another critical need. Thank you very much. And of course, we all know what everybody else has been doing with the fire and the police and things of that nature. But those are the things that we're supposed to do because that's the organization that we are. We've got a great HR department now. We've got a great airport manager, and everything else is rolling fine. But, the city manager got called in, Matt got called in. We've been working meetings at the EOC for a week now, and knowing that, I'm at the EOC, my wife is at home alone. I got J.R. Grimes going out at 7 o'clock in the morning to bring me a generator. I got Sean, whose daughter and son came to the house and sandbagged the house for me, because I knew I couldn't be there. Got Mr. Holmes lending me a portable AC so I didn't sweat so much. I was spoiled. But here's the deal, but that's what I'm talking about. I got Jonathan running all over, calling everybody he can to find me a cord for the generator. I got someone up on the words building it. These are the things that you can't just take for granted. You got to remember those things. And, Julie's cooking food and feeding people. People are at the house taking showers. That's what we do when there's a need. And it's so great to see this community doing those things and being such a part of that. And my last comment, and I'm so glad you stayed, Sean. You needed to hear what the mayor had to say, you know, and you and your family need to be recognized for what you've done during the storm, you know. And Jonathan, I really appreciate everything that you've done for me since I've been here. And you know, I've got a lot of friends that I've built here from this staff, and John, you'll offer me the use of the airport, you know, when I had no power. And you know, so we're in good hands. You know, we got great people. It's going to be hard to hush, Mayor. It's been such a great ride, and I am just so proud and so excited for where we are. And I'll go ahead and hush, but in all seriousness, thank you all for 2 wonderful, wonderful years, and it's just going to continue. Thank you. Watch out now. I am